Hey, how's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here to a Tuesday. It is the Earthmaster live stream is back up and running here. The power went down just a short time ago for about a minute or so, which pulled the live stream down. So that was a direct fault of the power issue, but it looks like we're back up live now and looking at the latest earthquake activity here on the Earthquake 3D Globe. Shows a 1.1 earthquake there across California. Not a big earthquake at all, just a little small microquake there across the Clear Lake volcanic field, it looks like, around those geothermal plants. A little bit of movement further south away from that area with a 2.4. That appears to be off of the West Napa Fault, maybe in between that area and also the Rogers Creek Fault here that sits north of the Hayward Fault. So a little bit of movement there around the North Bay today, nothing major. Up in Northern California, a couple smaller earthquakes throughout the last 24 hours. The latest, a 2.4 here, 14 miles deep into the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone. Up into the Seattle area, a handful of earthquakes across the Cascades. Really nothing big going on after some elevated activity. It looks like they're taking a little break up there right now for earthquake activity. Southern California down here, mostly smaller microquake activity today. One earthquake there from yesterday, that 2.6, along with a couple other smaller ones in there. That's been a little ongoing event there across the Malibu area. Got about 21 earthquakes here in total tally, including the main, well, I don't want to call it the main shake because who knows, there could be something else coming in. But in this little sequence of events, the 4.1, the largest so far. Aside from that, movement out in Nevada, it looks like. Outside the Yerington area. This is where that 5.4 earthquake struck here last year. Still seeing some, if you call it, aftershock activity in that region. Yellowstone National Park, nothing showing up there on the graph, but as always, I need to verify that, right? So let's go over here to the Yellowstone overview, the seismograph station, a recorded view here in the last 24 hours. Not a whole lot of activity. I see what looks like an earthquake here, a distant earthquake, about 8 o'clock this morning. Let's see where that's at. Not for sure exactly where that's coming from. Could have been a larger event somewhere. I think it may be this 4.6. That would make, or 5.6, excuse me, down here across Peru. But that's a distance in there. That's a distance from Yellowstone, obviously. But, the signal that I'm referring to is a very faint signal. And you can tell this is a distant earthquake. But that would match up, I think, with the time frame of that 5.6. Fairly deep as well. That's a super deep earthquake, 400 miles deep into the Peru-Chile Trench, underneath the Peru area. So got to watch that. Those super deep earthquakes are pretty much a sign there of to watch the surface areas upstream. Look at that. Raised off the globe quite nicely there for that quake. Looks like a little subsequent movement upstream following that deeper earthquake. Literally about 25 minutes later, a 4.3 striking, much shallower. So strain is building out here across this area of the Peru-Chile Trench. Keep an eye on that. Some movement there in Mexico as well. Well, off the coast of, that's an odd one, Western Caribbean Sea area. Off the coast here of Panama. Not too often do we see earthquakes out there in that specific area. Of course, the Caribbean plate here has been under a lot of strain recently. A lot of earthquake activity happening within this zone, including the 7.6 up here a number of weeks back on the on this fault boundary, plate boundary. Big time swarming going on here across Puerto Rico Trench. But overall, this whole area around the Caribbean region looks like they may be seeing some larger activity soon, just due to all the elevated movement in the area. Hawaii came back to eruption status early this morning as predicted. Don't like to use that word predicted, but hey, it's almost predictable in terms of the deformation and the inflation data out here. You can pretty much tell when another eruption is going to take place here across Kilauea Volcano. I called this last night. Expect for the eruption overnight or early this morning. It happened late last night. There it is on the chart, the dropping, or deflation, I should say. Webcams. See if it's still ongoing. There we go. Look at that. I heard this was getting up to around 400 feet in fountaining. These are not just little 5-foot fountains here. These are huge, hundreds of feet tall fountaining going on from 2 separate vents. These are trees up here across the the landscape. So this is a massive area, much bigger than what it appears to be on the camera. But yeah, so we got return to number, what is this, 13 episode of eruption here in the last few months, with almost pretty much 100% predictability. If you follow this trend line here, here's our current deflationary event. That's the eruption. That may continue. I'm betting by tonight we'll probably see an end to it, meaning a pause, as in each event in the past here. It's crazy to see that. I don't recall the last time we've seen something so predictable in the volcano nature there across the Hawaii Islands. But yeah. So each inflation leads up to an eruption. There's the eruption, that's deflation, and back up to inflation, and then eruption, deflation, rinse and repeat cycle. If there's ever a time to go out there and see an eruption prior to starting, well, that it would be it right now. 13 episodes of predictability in the volcano status there for Kilauea Volcano. Pretty neat to see. If I had the money and the extra time, I'd be heading out there to see it myself, but that is just not the case. All right, as far as worldwide activity goes, a little bit of movement here across the Mediterranean area, Middle East region, 4.8 earthquake, the latest coming in there to the area. Hard to say exactly where that's at, outside the Caspian Sea region. A lot of movement happening northern areas, north of Iceland. Bunch of movement stirring up out there for us. A lot of activity out here across the Azores as well. Atlantic Ocean. This is a lot more active than normal, so these events right here should stir up the volcano activity across Iceland here pretty soon. Not to mention that the plate adjustment here following these different earthquakes here across the area. Let me pull up the oceanic range here. This is a fracture boundary. Most of the time that will stir things up here across the Mediterranean and in this general area right here. So we'll watch for some elevated activity out there in the coming days. That may be already taking place here with that 4.8 and a couple other earthquakes out there. The Santorini region, we'll double check that. The volcano earthquake activity out here. Got 427 earthquakes in the last week. Numbers are staying consistent, with the latest there being a 2.5 just off this area here, northern edge of the swarm. Still seeing a mixed bag of just earthquake activity all over the place. No main event yet. And for the most part, the earthquake activity is just staying consistent here with really not a whole lot of newer large activity, just mainly in the 1s and 2 range and an occasional 3 or so. Bunch of activity across the Fiji Islands area from yesterday. That's a lot of deeper movement there. Nothing major going on there across this area of concern. I was expecting this to fill in here overnight. It hasn't, but it still may this morning or this afternoon. It's a seismic gap zone, and normally the earthquake activity that happens out here, the deeper regions, put a lot of strain out here across this plate boundary. So we'll continue to watch that. So, but a bunch going on out here in the Atlantic, up and down the board. Whole bunch of movement. All right, real quick glance here at space weather activity. Not a whole lot happening right now, folks, as far as flaring goes. No major roars in the forecast. A quick glance at the magnetogram image here of the sun. Well, there's not a whole lot of hope out here, if you like the solar flare excitement. Looking pretty quiet. The only thing I'm thinking maybe here in the coming days, we might get a little glimpse of this area. This is the far side. This is the eastern limb of the sun. Sunspots from the far side are drifting in this general pattern. And then, of course, the western limb over here. These are all going to be rotating out of sight. There's really not a whole lot of anything within those sunspots. Maybe this area right here, we'll get a better glimpse of it here in the coming days. This is behind a day, so it's a little bit closer here to the eastern limb. Quick glance at the next close approach asteroids here. At least 5 of them. Let's see what we have for the data. Man, all of these are millions of miles away, so for the most part, Well, everything looks pretty safe out there. Quick glance at the Storm Prediction Center forecast. Got, tomorrow a little slight risk for some severe weather out here across the four-state area, I was going to say the Four Corners area. You could pretty much call that the Four Corners in a way, but the Four Corners over here, yeah. But Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana, slight chance for some tornado activity there tomorrow, and even some wind and some big-time hail threats out there from storms that will be firing up. Aside from that, a bigger severe weather risk as we head into day 4 and day 5 with potential for some tornado activity out there as we head towards the weekend. We'll get a little bit better perspective of that as we come up closer to that time frame. California got some rain coming in here late tonight, early tomorrow. Well, yeah, late tonight into the day tomorrow for Wednesday. That storm system is going to be responsible for the severe weather out here in the southeast area this weekend. After that, we'll have to see what happens here. Maybe another similar repeat for the end of next week. But either way, system after system is hitting the West Coast, and that's good news for rainfall. That we could definitely use it out there. All right, what else we got here? Low earthquake on the Philippines. Again, nothing major happening right now, but with this elevated activity out in the Atlantic, got to watch that. That's stirring up out of the blue on a broad scale type of event that normally gets everything in motion out here across the globe. So we could see some elevated activity out here soon. All right, folks, in the meantime, live stream is up and running. Hope everyone has a good day out there. I got quite a bit of stuff I got to do before the rain comes in here tomorrow. But yeah, just enjoy the day. It's supposed to be about 72 degrees today, so our last somewhat warm day before some colder, rainier weather comes in. But I'm not complaining. I need the rain. I'm a rain lover. Without weather, life is just blah. I couldn't even imagine, no rain or wind or clouds in the forecast for me. It's just, I'd have to move somewhere else. Probably why I don't live in Southern California, because it's just fair weather all the time. But they got rain coming down there, so... and they need it too, for sure. All right, I'm out of here. Have yourself a good day. We'll see you guys back out here this evening for the Tuesday night update.